You think feminism is dead and gone, but nope, CNN and YouTube are bringing it back from the dead. They're back with an all-new video about getting women into the tech industry. Hoorah. Before I go into how stupid this video is, let me just point out that the people within this video who are inside that room are not members of the working class, nor are they politically diverse, so no conservatives or libertarians. It's pretty safe to say they're all liberal, and it's pretty safe to say they're all upper middle class or upper class twats.
Outside of YouTube, I see responsibility to be a woman leader and to represent tech as a really compelling opportunity for the next generation of women, and to make sure that it's a really compelling place for the women that are in tech. And you know, how do we grow tech? I think tech has a bad reputation right now among women. Like, how do we make it better?
If you want more women working in the technology field because you feel like you'd personally work better with a bunch of women, I get that. But I mean, don't kid yourself into thinking the technology industry is somehow pushing women away, or as you said, has a bad rap with women. The tech industry has a bad rap with women like the book industry has a bad rap with men. Women are just not interested in the tech industry, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Tech has a bad reputation among women. I mean, why is that? Candidly, is that because of the sexism issues in Silicon Valley? Is that why? Is it because of the lack of diversity in Silicon Valley?
I mean, I think tech, a lot of people who aren't in tech will think, oh, it's this really geeky field. It's not very creative. It's not very social. So it has that connotation of being really geeky. And I think that's a problem for the next generation. Mm-hmm. And if you step back for a minute and you say, what is the biggest force that is changing our society, that is moving our society forward in different ways, not just in the tech field, but across all fields, whether it's architecture or urban planning or design or cars or home improvement. Any of those areas are being, banking, all these areas are being affected by technology. And so if you say the biggest force that is changing us is not being represented by women proportionately, that's a problem.
Why is a lack of women in the technology industry a problem? Seriously, I mean, serious question. Why is that a problem? If women aren't being prevented from entering college and applying to tech companies and obtaining the tech field jobs, then I fail to see what the issue is here. There's no discrimination. It's purely choice. I thought you feminists were all about supporting choice. They're choosing not to go into tech fields. And if they're choosing not to go into tech, that is their decision to make. I suppose you can try to encourage more women to take a different path in life, but who the hell are you to tell people what's good for their life or what they should decide?
The numbers are really dismal. 26% of tech jobs in the US are held by women. The number of women graduating from college with computer science degrees is 20%. It's gone way down actually from the mid to late 1980s for some bizarre reason. Yeah. Make the case for America's competitiveness, because you've also said it's a Sputnik moment. Yeah. What happens if we don't get this right?
Men make up around 10% of nurses, 20% of elementary school teachers, 20% of veterinarians, and 15% of social service representatives. Are those jobs any less important than the tech industry? I would argue that we need more nurses and elementary school teachers than YouTube CEOs. Should men get together and campaign to get more male school teachers or male veterinarians? How about this? How about we give people the opportunity, the freedom to pursue whatever the hell they want in life, and whatever happens, happens. Both men and women pick whatever job they want. Look at the Scandinavian countries, for example. If you live there, you have the opportunities and freedom to pursue literally whatever the heck you want in life. And you know what happened there in the Scandinavian countries? More women chose to go into nursing, teaching, social services, and so on. If you equalize the playing field, a person's biological dispositions begins to express itself more. So before equality, women were more inclined to go into the tech industry because you got to do what you got to do to survive. But if you truly make things equal, it turns out that women will freely choose to go into the fields that they want to go, and they don't want to go into the tech fields. Biologically speaking, women are more social and verbal than men. On average, they're going to choose more interpersonal professions, whereas men will choose professions that are more spatial and tangible. In layman's terms, you put a doll and a robot in front of a girl, and on average, the girl will go for the doll. Women like people, men like things. Of course, not all women are like that. The majority tends to be that way, though, and that's the freaking truth.
It's really important that we talk about sexism in Silicon Valley right now. Susan, is there a sexism problem in Silicon Valley today.
Why not talk about the racism problem in Silicon Valley? Because there's far more East Asians and East and Southern Asians, so Indians and Chinese and Korean people. There are far more of them than there are blacks and Hispanics. In some cases, there are more Asians than whites. Why not talk about that?
Well, I think, Silicon Valley is a diverse place, and there are many different opinions, but like within Silicon Valley. But I think whenever you have a culture that is, whenever you have a majority and a minority, it's going to be harder for that minority. And in the article, I also talked about, even in a culture where people are really well-meaning, and I think there are many, many well-meaning, working hard, trying to provide Silicon Valley to be a diverse place, there are sometimes microaggressions, right? Like people who will just cut you off. And you'll be talking, and then someone will interrupt you. And so that's actually become like a big pet peeve of mine. So whenever like somebody interrupts me, I'll be like,
I'm gonna let you finish, but I just gotta say something. Microaggressions are bullshit.
But I enjoy it even more actually when I see them interrupting someone else, and then I'm like, wait, she was talking, don't interrupt her. And I think like every time I've done that, like people have been like, oh, thank you. Like I didn't realize I was doing that. So I guess I want to point out that there's some unconscious, we talk about unconscious bias.
Yes.
And that is, I realize like that's just pattern recognition. Like all of our brains are designed to do that, where you are, you learn like in a short period of time, like, this is like, you can't process everything. So you learn this is certain ways that the world works. And that can cause unconscious bias. And so I think just making people more aware of it is really important.
So would you say overall, yes, there is a problem in the Valley, and one you're hopeful is being fixed?
Well, I think there is a problem just in the numbers and being underrepresented. Like we need more women across the board, and until those numbers get fixed, it's gonna be a harder place for women to work.
God, do you know how pathetic you're making all women sound like that when you're saying that the reason they don't want to pursue these things in life is because of words? You make women sound like children. Look, if an occasional microaggression prevents you from entering into the tech field, then just maybe you are not cut out to work in that field or any field that involves dealing with adults. If you can't handle the heat, ladies, then maybe you should get back into the kitchen. Microaggressions, or in other words, the occasional rude banter, aren't the reason why women don't want to go into the tech industry as a whole. The reason is more rooted in human biology. I think anyone with half a brain knows that men and women, generally speaking, pursue different interests. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, by the way. Let people be who they are. This video goes on for a little over 40 minutes, but you get the gist of it. I'll end off this video by saying this. So the main purpose of this talk hosted by CNN, the fake news outlet, was to try to get women into higher positions of power when in reality, a lot of the women don't actually want that. A lot of women instead want to go to professions that are more interpersonal, or they want to become mothers because they care about family. Basically, CNN is trying to get more women into higher income. But the thing is, once you're able to comfortably pay the bills, there's nothing great about being in a higher paying job. A lot of the people in higher paying jobs, so lawyers, doctors, and yeah, even CEOs, they tend to work 80 hours a week. They sometimes work in stressful, highly competitive environments. If you don't need that much money to live, then why is climbing the corporate ladder your ultimate goal? If you're actually like that, go for it. But if you're not like that, don't let yourself be pressured by people like these feminists. Personally, I think more people should value the things in life that intrinsically matter, like having a family and working towards having a stable, loving home instead of obtaining a higher income. But that's just my opinion, I guess. That's how I want to live my life. I'm Jay Feza from the Rebel.media. Hey, if you like this banter, like, subscribe to The Rebel Edge.